So excited to have another coach with us in studio. We are running towards the final stretch, pun maybe or maybe not intended. I'm not quite sure. UNW Athletics, you are flying with DP and Ryan. David, how's the view for you this week?
The view's awesome, Ryan. Our 10th episode. Can
Yeah,
you believe it?
We made it.
They said
I
we
guess
wouldn't.
this
They
far.
said we wouldn't make it through the first one, and now we're in double digits.
Yeah.
And we have another awesome guest here, one of the most experienced coaches in the University of Northwestern Athletic Department, Coach Steve Thiessen. We were just talking before the show, either 31 or 32, something like that, in the 30s. He started in 1991. He's still there. Coach Thiessen, the head cross-country and track coach at the University of Northwestern. Thanks for being here, Coach.
Hey, thanks for having me over. It's fun to share some stories and maybe a few laughs.
We appreciate it. I mean, you've been coaching not just longer, but significantly longer than Ryan and I have been alive. So
is that combined by chance?
Not combined. Not combined. I think if we combined our ages, we would have you. Yeah. But you've been coaching for a long time, over 30 years in one place. What's that like? And what has made you kind of stay at Northwestern for just this long? I mean, coaching in one place like this.
Well, 30 plus years sounds pretty nice, right? Although I have on occasion said it's my fourth decade, right? That even sounds more impressive. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just kind of fun thing to say. But what's kept me here? Just the mission. I love the mission of who we're about, what we're about, the university, the education, what students are gaining as students here. And I just get to do that through athletics.
What's changed in cross country? I mean, since 1991, were people running barefoot back then, and now there's spikes and cleats and innovation? I mean, what's different from 1991 to 2022 when it comes to cross country?
Boy, really not a lot. Men, we still race, the 8K, 5 mile distance. The ladies have gone from a 5K. Now we're at 6K is what we race. Really not a huge change, but that's just part of what it is. Training's pretty much the same. You learn a little bit more about the sciences that are going on, and then the art of coaching is how to apply that with the group of people you have.
So, Coach, here at Northwestern, there's a lot of people who are in charge of one sport, and that's enough work as it is, one squad that's around the clock. But you could say that you're in charge of 4 teams. You could say 6 teams if you split up
Correct.
Indoor and outdoor track in the spring. How do you juggle all of that? I mean, not just fall, but spring as well. Is that
and the winter?
Indoor
track.
It's all year round. How do you juggle all that?
I don't think I do. I just drop a few things and I just juggle 2 at a time, put it that way. The other ones I just put off to the side because, at times it's a lot. Like right now in the cross season, I just tell my track athletes that you're a little bit on your own.
Sure.
I'm focused on this group of athletes and trying to build relationships with them, train them, equip them to compete at a high level. So the track people aren't going to get my attention. And then if or cross come out for track, they'll get my attention. But those that don't, right, then they're kind of on their own. And I still meet with them. But, in season gets my attention. That's pretty much the way I do it.
Well, that's awesome, Coach. And juggling all those sports is impressive. Your sport also is different in the sense that it's a team sport. There's a team score. But there's a major individual aspect to it. The athletes are out there running by themselves. It's not like, football or basketball or baseball where you're out there kind of right next to your teammates doing it together. How do you incorporate, the team unity, the team bonding, and really just that team aspect in a sport that is very individual when you're kind of out in the woods, running around by yourself? What's kind of the strategy there?
Was that a pun, out in the woods?
Yes,
literally.
I wasn't going to comment on it, but I was very proud of it. So
I thought you hit it right.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Cross country, we're all over. We leave from campus. We're in the metro, urban area, suburban area, right? So some road running, but there's a lot of parks around here, and we take advantage of those. Track season is totally different as well, with both the indoor and outdoor kind of makeup and shift of that. Again, your specifics to your question.
The athletes are out there competing, individually by themselves. How do you at practice and at meets really cultivate that team culture, that team aspect when it is a sport that is, at times individually based?
Very much so. Cross is a whole lot easier because we're all doing the same thing, right? We meet together and we train together. We pretty much do it all. Track, yeah, definitely a different scenario there because my throwers are at one venue. Sprint people jump or at the track. You got distance people they don't want to be on the track for, 5, 8, 10-mile run. They're going to be out on the road. So we are all over the place. And to bring that together, it's, those team meetings, try to build relationships through that. We got to, do the nuts and bolts about, being a team. But, a lot of it's the stuff that happens outside of that. So meet day. I always feel like meet day is the best day of the week to get to play. There's a lot more interaction with the athletes because we are now together, our team camp, and again, events going on all over the place. So you just try and check in with one another, be intentional about that, whether it's hanging out at the team campsite, right? Part of the day feels like we're camping. We're just missing the bonfire when we're there.
Have you ever thought about throwing a bonfire up at a cross-country meet, or that's against the rules?
Not a bonfire, but I have thought about bringing a grill.
There you
go.
go.
And firing up some burgers and brats, right?
Which I'm sure that would make them run a lot faster and better if they had about 3 brats in their stomach too, right before the meet. So that's awesome.
The guys that run at the beginning of the day and the end of the day, they're the ones that don't like, their sort of setup because they want to eat.
Yeah,
but they're like, I have something going on, and so they don't eat. They may snack on something, and the other ones like they competed early and they're done for the rest of the day, and boy, they dive into the sandwiches and don't leave a whole lot left behind for the other guys.
Are you a master at setting that tent up now because you've been doing it for over 30 years? Is that thing up in like 5-10 seconds?
I'm more of the here's what you need to do.
Yeah, delegate
and get it done, and then I have to kind of go back and redo things because maybe it's not as secure as I would like it to be. I'm the one that's invested the money in it, right, with the program. Sure. So if it blows up in the wind, that's not very fun.
No, not at all.
We were at a meet in Gustavus. This goes back about 15 years ago. My son was with us. He's probably 5-6 years old, and we didn't have the tent, the 10 by 20 tent. We didn't have it staked down, and a gust of wind comes up, right?
Oh no!
And he grabs onto the rail and literally pulls him off the ground.
Hey, my son's flying out.
And he lets go. The tent goes flying over the brick wall that was about 4 feet high. The whole back row of legs on the tent busted up, and so we had to replace all that. But
but you didn't have to replace your son.
I did not replace my son. Okay. No, yes.
Glad to hear that.
He survived the kite flight.
There we go.
And now it's a great story to tell.
Well, that's a big part of sport and relationships, right?
Yeah.
It's the things that when things go the way they're supposed to, we don't spend a lot of time remembering or rehashing those. It's when the odd things happen.
Absolutely.
Right. Yesterday at practice, we were down at Como Park, and one of the guys finds a pair of glasses. Just where I don't remember where he finds them, but he finds a pair of glasses. He takes them, and at the end of the practice, we're kind of stretching and just having some fun together. And he puts them on, and somebody goes, "Oh, those look great on you." They're like, "Those are yours." So we take a couple of pictures, and then he hands them off to somebody else, and "Oh, those look great on you." And pretty soon we got like half a dozen pictures of the team all wearing the same glasses, throughout the day. Those are the moments we're going to remember than the workout itself. I mean, that'll be, gone, the memory of that. But the fun we had together, that's what people will remember.
That's awesome. That's powerful.
So you talk about building that team culture, Coach, and what you can do outside of the actual competition. But now I want to go to inside the competition. And I have to give Colin, one of the seniors on your club, Colin McDonald, a shout out because he was describing to me during the race the subtle hand signals and things that your guys will do in a way to say like, hey, I need you here next to me. You need to come forward type of a thing. Check your breathing. I'm not going to lay out all of them. But what is that like going into a meet as far as your role in that? Is that players themselves saying, hey, you know what? We're going to take this onus on ourselves to be connected when it is go time during the heat of competition? Or are you saying beforehand like, hey, guys, just so you know, you can do these types of things to stay connected as one unit during a race?
Yeah, we have to, pre-meet, talk about different things and maybe a strategy or how we want to, do something going into this meet. It's a hilly course, and we've kind of practiced like attacking the peak of the hill and taking that momentum over the top. So that's something we're working with. We can race with watches to kind of gauge our pacing, but sometimes we get too connected to the watch and forget to race and compete. So this weekend we're like, no watches. You can't race with the watch. I had a guy a few years ago was very calculated out in terms of what he needed to run. Here's the time I'm shooting for, and so the first mile needs to be this and that. If he missed it, just for numbers' sake, let's say he wanted to run a 30 flat for 5 miles, 6-minute miles. So he wanted that first mile to be 5:50, 5:45. Well, if he went out and went 5:20, 5:30, well, then he would adjust.
Sure.
And he would slow down so that the second mile would then get him to his 12-minute pace. So he would literally run the second mile too slow in order to be at his 12-mile mark or 12-minute mark, right?
Sure.
So once I kind of figured out what he was doing, I said, you can't race with a watch this week. I just want you to race, run.
Yeah.
So what's he do? He drops a full minute.
Wow.
A full minute.
Yep.
Well, we're pretty excited about that. So let's do that strategy again the next week. And the next race, he drops another minute. So in 2 races without his watch, he dropped a full 2 minutes, which is pretty crazy.
Astronomical,
right?
Yeah.
Now he's playing at, at the level that is more in line with who he is. And that's the key with each athlete is figuring out what changes to make for them individually. Again, I had 2 guys. One was a sprint, the 800, 400-mile guy running 5-mile races. And his teammate was a distance guy who could run 10Ks, right? Or before coming here, he had already run marathons. So they were 2 different styles of athletes, but they would pretty much run together. On speed practices, the one guy, Jackson, would, they weren't his favorite. He'd just turn me on and let me go, Energizer buddy kind of guy, right? And just let me go. And Will loved the speed stuff. So in races, they would run pretty much together in the last mile. Will would take off. He'd just break away and finish the race. And then working with Jackson, we just said, we really think that you're stronger in this and you can actually run faster during the whole race versus the right at the end. He's going to do that. He's going to break away at the last mile. So he kind of bought into that and shifted his focus and how he raced. And now he wasn't always being beaten by the other guy because he started racing differently. And that's the fun thing when they start seeing those little successes.
Yeah.
For each individual and kind of reaching, again, their own potential and ability. That's fun. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's fascinating to hear kind of the X's and O's of the cross-country meets and the strategy that goes into it. Let's talk a little bit about this 2022 squad. Ryan and I have talked on the show a handful of times. The makeup of your teams is a little bit different. The men's team has a lot of guys who have been on the team in past years, a lot of returners. The women's team seem to be a lot more kind of new, fresh faces. What's kind of been the differences in the 2 teams as you coach a team full of returners versus coaching a team full of newcomers? And then how have the seasons started for both squads so far here in 2022?
Yeah, one of the things that's unique for me is I'm coaching both male and female athletes at the same time, where the majority of our sports, it's one gender, right?
Yep.
Our soccer coach doesn't coach both teams, right? He coaches one. So there's a uniqueness of that, both for all 3 sports, indoor, outdoor track, and cross country. Sometimes we break off into gender groups for team meetings and things just to kind of address things a little bit differently or what's unique to that group of players. As you asked, the guys squad, more of a returning guys. We're still rather young, but there's some experience there. And I always feel like the first year is a year of learning and growing. Hopefully it's growing. Because you're racing new courses. You've not, having been on a course, you just have an idea of what you're doing. And so now we're going to courses that athletes have run before. It gives them a little bit of an edge, an upside. and we can carry that in. On the women's side here now, because it's all really a new squad, a full turnover in terms of roster. So we're young, and everybody's still learning that. The thing that's sort of missing there is that veteran player to step up and go, here's what we did here at this course. Here's what I've experienced in the past. So we're kind of missing that leadership voice of our veteran players, which is, disappointing, but you move on, right? You can't do what's not there. You work with what you have. And so that group is learning together, and it's fun to see who steps up, right, in different ways.
For sure.
Personality traits, leadership traits, their own experiences they bring to that. So both unique in that, but yet we still function as one team, which is unique, again, for the sport itself. It's unique to the sport.
Yeah.
David and I, Coach, have chatted multiple times in past episodes about how unique the cross-country schedule is, because you can have a couple invites meet so close together, and then they become spread out, and then you look and you say, we want to be peaking at the end of October. We want to be running our best times in that last week of October, and that can feel like a long ways away, but you know that in the back of your mind, I'm sure, when you're in training in August, getting ready for the season, and then early September. How much of a factor is that for you as a coach, for both the men and the women, when you're figuring out, okay, we want to be at our best at this point, and that can be difficult, like you said, with so many newcomers, but we were talking before you even hopped on the podcast about how you're going to be at the same site 3 times this year, and that site in St. Bonifacius is going to be for the championship. So all that combined together, how do you keep that in the back of your mind as the season wears on, wanting to say, hey, we want to be at our best in late October?
Yeah, great question. There's so many variables in there, right? At the beginning of the season, late August, early September, the weather's typically warmer.
Yep.
As we progress through the fall, cooler temps. We're in the 50s now, which for runners, that's pretty good weather.
Yeah.
60s is nice. We have, varying degrees of that. So when we were out at early September, we were on this course at Crown, and it was, it was hot, a little bit muggy, very sunny. And first time on the course. So you're learning from that. So the expectations are, for me anyway, as a coach, are not real high in terms of, hey, we have to hit a time.
Yeah.
It's really, let's learn from this. What do we like? What didn't go so well? How did we run the first half versus the second half? And those type of things. So you're laying a foundation. We'll be out there in another 2 weeks. So we'll get a second preview of the course. We'll run the full distance this time. So 6K for the ladies, 8K for the guys. And again, gain some experience from there. The weather will be a little bit different. We're in better shape because we've got, 6 weeks, 8 weeks of running on our legs, where summer miles tend to be slow, build up that mileage. You're anywhere from 30, some up to 60 miles a week type of a thing. We're not doing a ton of speed work. Now we're adding that speed element to get faster, and that's what you want to see as the season goes on. And so, again, the weather, the course conditions, all of those play out for us in terms of trying to hit that, what we would strive for is that peak performance. Again, unique to the sport because, basketball, you coach that, right?
I sure do.
Right? You're involved there.
As far as I know.
So, it's wins and losses, right? And one guy, you may have a guy who's your leading scorer, but that night he might not be the leading scorer. He might have an off night, and somebody else has to pick you up and carry the load, and different athletes in different ways. And, with cross, there's no substitutes. I always say the only time out is the one you take in your head. And that's, you decide that this is tough, the negative thoughts you have. I have to overcome those negative thoughts. I always say we have to have they're going to come. What's the positive thought you're going to reinforce when that negative comes, right?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? Pretty common negative thought, right? Because difficulty has come. Now, how are we going to counter that? Otherwise, we're just going to keep feeding into that and let that win out. For us as distance runners, we're going to slow down in that moment. Well, you're not going to hit peak performance when you're slowing down, right? Again, I relate it to other sports, right? Basketball, again, kind of just go back there. A guy throws the ball away, turnover, a couple of missed shots, misses his defensive positioning, right? Coach pulls him out of the game, right? He's on the bench.
He's sitting next to me.
I got a sub that's coming in, and well, in cross, there's no sub for you.
Yeah.
You have to figure it out. The longer
running.
you stay in that mental timeout, the poorer your overall time is going to be in performance in that day. And so learning, that's part of the skill and strategy, I guess, of learning how to race, compete at a high level for that individual, because everybody's a little different, right?
Yeah.
For sure. Our inside man, Colin McDonald, he also told us that you ran the 400-meter hurdles back in the day when you were an athlete. So he was giving us all the
give you a preview, huh?
He was giving us all the good stuff and kind of about your background. How did your experience as a college athlete, maybe specifically running those 400-meter hurdles, how did that kind of shape your coaching philosophy now that you've done this for 30 years?
Well, let's go back. That's a way back. So I was football in high school, played football and track, got into the hurdles thing and was a hurdler. Really enjoyed that. I'll boast a little bit. I set some school records. I had some speed, freshman records, sophomore records, varsity records.
We love boasting on this show. If Ryan and I had anything to boast about, we'd be boasting all the time.
Well, so that's my moment. I'll take that.
Go.
I'll take that little moment. I don't know. Again, tracks. There's so much. It's a relational aspect because you're training with a group of guys and you're not. It's not head to head. It's not defense against offense. It's my offense and your offense.
Yeah.
And you're helping me, and I'm helping you getting in the blocks or getting out of the blocks or getting over the hurdles. There's a lot of that's been my experience at the high school level, and I didn't have a lot of coaches. We had a sprint coach, and we had a distance coach, and so the hurdlers, throwers were pretty much on their own. We learned through one another. What shaped I don't know if sports, how much has really shaped my philosophy as working at a youth camp and the leadership of the people around me that have influenced my life. Youth pastors, those relationships have influenced my just relationship with Christ and then how I relate to people around that. Learning about myself and being comfortable with who I am. Right, and then who I am in Christ and my identity being there, not in my performance in sports or in grades or whatever it is, the car I drive, the home I have. It's not about those elements. And to be able to incorporate that into what's really at the heart of what we do. And that's why I like our mission here at Northwestern, Colossians 3:17. In whatever you do, we just happen to do it in sports. So whatever you do in sports, let's do it to honor and praise God. Well, how do we do that then? Let's talk about that, right, as a team and individually. So it might be a conversation in my office, or it might be a conversation at a practice, or before a meet, after a meet. Who knows when that's going to come up? Could be in the ride to or from an event, right? It's about those relationships. So I've also learned from other coaches. My athletes hear this frequently. I'm a Major League Baseball fan. I'm a Cubs fan. I follow the Cubs.
Yeah, there we go.
I have my second tier teams that I follow as well. The Twins would be one of those. They're also in the American League. So I can support those guys.
Maybe World Series one day. Cubs Twins.
Cubs Twins.
We'll
see.
Lots got to change.
A lot of stars have to align there, maybe. But you read the stories, the post game stuff from the coach, and he highlights something. But sometimes he's talking about an injury that they're dealing with on the team. So star players out, and they're trying to navigate through that. And I honestly learn from the things that they're talking about because I think it relates to us. We're just at a different level. Yeah. We're not making the money they're making, but you're still working with people. And, to tell an athlete that, again, their identity isn't in their performance. We want to perform well. We want to compete well. We want to, the opportunity to go to nationals in track or cross country. Well, let's strive for that.
Yeah.
Right? But somebody may not be that level of athlete, but they can still perform at their best. And what are their strengths and talents might not just be what happens at the track or at the race. They might be your biggest cheerleader on the team. right? They might be the best leader on your team.
Yeah.
There's so many traits that people can share and develop and bring to a team. And I love that about sport. And I love that about, both the sports that I coach with, cross country and track, because it's not just dependent upon the star athlete.
Yeah.
We do have people that do advance to those upper levels, All-American, record holders, and those sort of things. But at the end of the day, it's going to come back to those relationships and that growth in their own faith in Christ and trusting in his faithfulness, in Christ and God's faithfulness, right? In his justice, in his mercy, in his love for us. And who does he say who I am? Not what the world says, right? The world wants to say, well, how was your performance?
Yeah.
Your identity wrapped in that, when it's, I have to be wrapped in who God says I am, because the world's going to eat me up, chew me up, spit me out, and leave me on the side of the road, right?
Yeah.
So I love that that's part of Northwestern athletics, is incorporating our faith, our relationship with God through Christ into what we do every day. That's why I'm here too. That's the bottom line.
Amen. That's really, really good. Last one for me, Coach, and I know there's so many things that could pop in your head when I ask this. So over 30 years being here, you've experienced a lot. You've had a lot of cool moments, I'm sure. Could you share one with our audience today for this one really sticks out? If it was recent or something that was, a decade and a half ago, whatever it may be, is there one at the top that you could share?
There are a lot that come into mind. I'm going to give a shout out to Zach Marshall. Zach ran for us. He was from Ohio. He played 3 years of cross country, 4 years of track. We were at a track meet. It was conference meet. Zach was a distance guy for us. And the format of the meet, it was a one-day meet at the time. And it opens, the first meet of the day is the 4x8. So he's part of that 4x8 relay. The next event, and it alternates men and women, and then the next event was the 3,000 steeplechase, and Zach was in the 3,000. So he just had a short recovery and ran the 3,000 steeple. And then he's pretty much off the rest of the day, right? So the second to last event is the 5,000, and Zach's in the 5,000. Runs a great race, phenomenal race, man. We were cheering him on, and right there he needs to be in a certain spot, points there available. Well, while this is going on, this is track, right? The 4x4 is where you start dropping people, right? There's either you love the event or you don't.
Sure.
Coach starts asking, the joke is coach is asking for a 400 runner and everybody hides, under a desk, in the tent.
It's a long sprint.
It's a long sprint, and just mentally, right? And so that's kind of the running joke around that. So anyway, we've lost a couple of guys, maybe injury here or there, or something's just kind of put them where they're not able. And so we've kind of working our way down the list. We're not at our top four, but at this point, and we've kind of circled our way down. And Zach's sort of the next guy. So he just finishes his 5K. We're celebrating, right? So he's already raced 3, 4, 5.5 miles for the day. And we're celebrating, and I have to, Zach, can you give me a 400? I need you in a 4x4. And he gives me that stare like, lightning bolts, and you're an idiot. That's how I interpret it anyway. And about, 15 seconds later, he, kind of like shakes his head. Let's go. I'm in, right? So here's what happens. We run the 4x4. Zach runs his personal best split in the 400 that day after already racing.
Wow.
What he had, his stepping up to do that, the effort he gave, that's just one of those moments in sport that, sticks out in my mind. It was more about the effort and the result of that, the adjustment that he had to make in his own mind to, again, what are you asking me to do that?
Yeah.
So when people rise to the occasion, we love that, whether it's in sports or life, whatever it is.
So now every other kid you've coached probably doesn't like Zach, because now when they say, I don't want to run the 400, you just go right, hey, Zach did it after all this. Now they're like, darn it, Zach.
Yeah, Zach set the standard, that's for sure.
That's awesome. Well, that's an awesome story and just an incredible conversation, Coach Thiessen. We really appreciate having you here. I feel like I want to go out and go for a run right now, which is
Really?
which is saying something, which just goes to show how awesome this conversation.
What are we
was.
running
So,
to? The vending machine?
yeah, something
or
like that.
you know?
Yeah, something like that. That might even be a little too far. We might have to walk there. So, Coach Thiessen, thanks a lot for your time. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been fun. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.